The laughter started before Ingrid Larson even stepped off the transport ship. A group of tall, gray-skinned aliens pointed at the weapon strapped to her back. They made sounds that her translator converted into mocking words. One of them called it a museum piece. Another asked if the human had gotten lost on her way to a history exhibit. Ingrid ignored them. She had heard worse back on Earth during her early competition days. People always laughed at things they did not understand. The axe on her back was older than most things on this space station. Her great-grandmother had forged it in a small Norwegian village over 100 years ago. 4 generations of Larson women had trained with it. 4 generations had mastered the art of making it fly through the air and hit exactly where they wanted. Ingrid was the best of them all. She walked through the massive halls of the Galactic Combat Academy on Station Vero 7. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved around her. Some had scales, some had fur. Some looked like insects standing on 2 legs. None of them looked impressed by the short human woman with the primitive weapon. A holographic display showed the numbers. 47 species had sent their best warriors to compete. Only 12 would earn positions in the Vanguard, the most elite military unit in the galaxy. No human had ever made it. Most betting pools gave humans 0% odds. Ingrid smiled at that. She liked proving people wrong. The orientation hall was crowded when she arrived. A Krellian instructor stood at the front. He was 7 feet tall with blue skin and 4 arms. His voice boomed across the room without any amplification. "You are here because your species believes you are exceptional," he said. "Most of you are wrong. The Crucible will prove it. The tournament will confirm it, and only the worthy will join the Vanguard." Ingrid found a spot near the back. She studied the other recruits. Most carried energy weapons that hummed with power, plasma rifles, graviton hammers, sonic blades that could cut through metal with sound waves alone. One massive creature had what looked like a small cannon mounted on his arm. That creature turned and noticed her watching. He was a Thoracian, 8 feet tall and built like a mountain. His skin was thick and gray like armor plating. He walked toward her and the crowd parted to let him through. "You are the human," he said. His name tag read Grolk. "I am," Ingrid replied. Grolk looked at her axe and laughed. The sound was deep and rumbling like rocks falling down a cliff. "My people forged the first plasma shields 1,000 years before your species discovered fire," he said. "And you bring a sharpened piece of metal to compete with us." "It works for me," Ingrid said calmly. Grolk stepped closer. He was so tall that Ingrid had to crane her neck to meet his eyes. Then he deliberately bumped into her with his shoulder. The impact sent her stumbling backward. She nearly fell but caught herself at the last moment. "Weak," Grolk said. "Your planet's gravity made you soft. You will not survive the first trial." He walked away laughing. Others joined in. The sound echoed through the hall. Ingrid straightened herself and touched the handle of her axe. The wood was worn smooth by generations of hands. She could feel the tiny grooves her grandmother had carved into it for better grip. She could feel the weight distribution that made it fly true every single time. She had thrown this axe 10,000 times. She had practiced until her arms ached and then practiced more. She had won championships on Earth against opponents who trained with laser-guided systems and computer-assisted throws. She had beaten them all with nothing but skill and patience. These aliens had better technology, but Ingrid had noticed something during the orientation. When the Krellian instructor had described the Crucible, the obstacle course that served as the first trial, most recruits had looked nervous. Their eyes had flickered to their weapons as if the tools would save them. Ingrid had seen that look before. It was the look of people who trusted their equipment more than themselves. It was the look of people who had never truly struggled. Earth was classified as a death world by galactic standards. The gravity was heavy. The predators were numerous. The weather was violent and unpredictable. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. They had climbed mountains and crossed deserts and sailed oceans on wooden ships. These pampered aliens thought technology made them strong. They had forgotten what real strength looked like. The crucible was announced for the next morning. Recruits would be divided into squads and tested on survival, teamwork, and combat effectiveness. Elimination was permanent. Failure meant going home in shame. Ingrid returned to her quarters and laid the axe on. Her bed, she ran her fingers along the blade. It was sharp enough to split a hair. She had honed it herself using the same techniques her great-grandmother had taught her mother, who had taught her. Tomorrow, the galaxy would see what a human could do. Tomorrow, they would stop laughing. She picked up the axe and began her evening practice routine. The weight was perfect in her hand. The balance was flawless. Generations of Larson women whispered to her through the old wood and forged steel. Ingrid smiled and threw. The axe spun through the air and buried itself in the practice target across the room. Dead center, as always. She was ready. 5 strangers stood in the darkness, waiting for the world to try to kill them. Ingrid looked at her squad. 2 insected Chitauri with compound eyes and clicking mandibles. 1 amphibious Morith with blue-green skin and webbed hands. 1 small furry Fen who barely reached her waist. And herself, the human everyone expected to die first. The crucible activated. Suddenly they were standing in a dense jungle. Hot air pressed against their skin. Strange creatures screamed in the distance. The ground was soft and wet beneath their feet. "Combat protocols initiating," one of the Chitauri said. His name was Crix. "Scanning for threats." "My sensors are not functioning properly," the other Chitauri named Vel replied. "The interference is too strong." The Morith, a female named Sulla, looked around nervously. "This environment is hostile to my respiratory system. I require moisture." The Fen said nothing, he just trembled. Ingrid pulled her axe free. "Stay close, move quiet. We need to find water and shelter before dark." "You are not qualified to lead," Crix said. "My species has superior tactical programming." "Then lead," Ingrid said simply. Crix stood still for a moment. His compound eyes flickered as he processed data. Then he pointed in a random direction. "This way. Probability suggests resources in that vector." They walked for 10 minutes before the ambush hit them. 3 squads had decided to work together to eliminate the human early. Plasma bolts flew through the trees. Crix and Vel froze as their combat algorithms struggled to adapt to the chaotic terrain. Sulla dove for cover but landed badly and cried out in pain. The Fen ran in circles screaming. Ingrid moved. She had grown up in forests. She had hunted deer with her father since she was 6 years old. She knew how to read terrain and use it. She grabbed the Fen and threw him behind a fallen log. She rolled to Sulla and dragged her to safety. Then she looked at the attacking squads and saw exactly what she expected. They were relying on their weapons. They stood in the open because they trusted their shields. They fired wildly because their targeting systems told them where to aim. Ingrid picked up a rock and threw it hard to the left. The attackers turned toward the sound. In that moment of distraction, she charged right. Her axe took down the first attacker before he even saw her coming. She hit his leg and he fell screaming. The second attacker raised his plasma rifle, but she was already past him. She grabbed his arm and twisted. The rifle fired into the air as he dropped. The third attacker swung an energy blade at her head. She ducked and buried her axe in his shield generator. Sparks flew. His shield died. She kicked him in the chest and he fell backward into his allies. The ambush broke apart. The remaining attackers ran. They had not expected the human to fight back. They certainly had not expected her to win. Ingrid returned to her squad. Crix and Vel stared at her with their hundreds of eyes. The Fen had stopped screaming. Sulla was holding her ankle and grimacing. "It is broken," Sulla said quietly. "I cannot walk, leave me." "No," Ingrid said. "The rules allow it. I am a liability now." Ingrid knelt beside her. "On my planet, we do not leave people behind, ever." She helped Sulla onto her back. The Morith was heavier than she looked. Ingrid felt her muscles strain under the weight, but she did not complain. "We need to move," she said. "More will come." They walked for 3 hours. Ingrid carried Sulla the entire way. When energy drained from her legs, she thought about her grandmother carrying wounded soldiers during the old wars. When her arms went numb, she thought about her mother hauling fishing nets through frozen waters. Larson women did not quit. She used the axe to cut through vines. She used it to build a shelter when they found a defensible cave. She used the blade to strike sparks and start a fire for warmth. Crix watched everything with growing confusion. "These are primitive techniques," he said, "but they work." "Sometimes old ways are best," Ingrid replied. On the third day, simulated predators attacked their position. The creatures moved fast and low, designed to avoid. Energy weapon targeting. Crix and Vel fired uselessly. Their shots went wide. Ingrid stepped forward and threw. The axe spun through the air and took the first predator in the skull. She retrieved it and threw again, then again, then again. 4 predators, 4 perfect throws. The squad survived the crucible with middle-tier placement. It was not a victory, but it was not elimination either. More importantly, they had proven they could work together. Afterward, in the recovery area, Grolk found Ingrid. He loomed over her with suspicion in his eyes. "What trick did you use?" he demanded. "What technology did you hide?" Ingrid looked up at him calmly. "No trick, 10,000 hours of practice, and ancestors who survived ice ages." She walked away before he could respond. Behind her, Sulla called out, "Human, Ingrid, thank you for carrying me." Ingrid smiled over her shoulder. "That is what squad members do." For the first time since arriving, she did not walk alone. Sulla limped beside her. Crix and Vel followed. Even the Fens scurried to keep up. The tournament was next, and now Ingrid had allies. Blood dripped onto sand that had seen 10,000 battles. Ingrid wiped her mouth and watched her opponent fall. The Sylph warrior had 4 arms and 20 years of combat training. He had shields on each limb and blades that hummed with deadly energy. He had also just lost to a human with a piece of metal. The crowd did not cheer. They sat in stunned silence. This was her 4th victory. No one had expected her to win even one. Ingrid retrieved her axe from where it had landed after the final throw. The blade had caught the Sylph in the shoulder, right where his armor plates met. She had spotted the gap during the first 30 seconds of the fight. She had spent the next 2 minutes making him angry enough to forget about protecting it. Patience was a weapon too. In the stands, a Krellian named Vorik made notes on a data pad. He was one of the senior instructors, and he had watched every one of her matches. His expression never changed, but he wrote more after each fight. Ingrid returned to the waiting area. Her squad mates greeted her with something that might have been respect. "Your technique is illogical," Crix said. "You do not attack when you have advantage. You wait, you provoke, you let them make mistakes." "Exactly," Ingrid said. "But why?" "Because strong enemies expect strong attacks. They prepare for them. They do not prepare for patience." Sulla handed her a water container. "You fight like prey that learn to hunt predators." Ingrid smiled at that. "My ancestors were prey once. Wolves hunted them. Bears hunted them. Winter hunted them. They survived by being smarter than things that wanted to kill them." Across the arena, Grolk was finishing his own match. His method was different. He simply overwhelmed his opponents with raw power. His current victim was a serpentine creature twice his length. Grolk grabbed it by the tail and slammed it into the ground 3 times until it stopped moving. The Thorakian section of the crowd roared approval. Money changed hands as bets were settled. The odds for Grolk winning the tournament were now 5-1 in his favor. Ingrid's odds had improved from impossible to merely unlikely. Some aliens were now betting on her to reach the quarterfinals. A few optimistic humans had placed wagers on her making the semifinals. She did not care about odds. She cared about her next opponent. The tournament bracket updated on the main display. Ingrid studied the names. She had 3 more fights before the finals. Each opponent would be harder than the last. Her next match was against a Vorrican, a species known for their speed. They could move faster than most eyes could track. Their traditional fighting style involved 100 small cuts before the enemy even knew the fight had started. Ingrid spent the night studying recordings of Vorrican matches. She noticed something interesting. They were fast moving forward. They were fast moving side to side. But they were slow going backward. Their leg structure made retreating difficult. The next morning, she entered the arena with a plan. The Vorrican attacked immediately. Blades flashed. Ingrid felt cuts appear on her arms and legs. The pain was sharp, but she had trained through worse. Norwegian winters taught you to ignore discomfort. She did not try to match his speed. Instead, she advanced, slowly, steadily, one step at a time. The Vorrican danced around her, cutting and slashing. But Ingrid kept moving forward. She drove him back toward the arena wall. He had nowhere to go. When his back touched the barrier, she threw. The axe hit the wall right next to his head, close enough that he felt the wind of its passage. He flinched away from it, stumbling off balance. That was all she needed. Ingrid closed the distance and caught him. With an elbow to the throat, he went down gasping. The match was over. The crowd finally reacted. Some cheered, others booed, most simply stared in confusion. The human was not supposed to keep winning. After the match, Vorric approached her in the corridor. "You do not fight like other humans I have studied," he said. "There are not many humans to study," Ingrid replied. "True, but I have watched recordings of your species at war. You use machines, you use distance, you rarely engage in close combat." "Those are soldiers," Ingrid said. "I am something older." Vorric tilted his head. "Explain." "Before guns, before bombs, before technology, my ancestors fought with axes and swords. They raided across frozen seas. They conquered lands 10 times the size of their villages. They were called many things. Most of them meant fear." Vorric was silent for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "The other instructors think you are lucky. They think your victories are accidents." "What do you think?" "I think luck does not win 5 matches in a row. I think the Thoracians are making a mistake by underestimating you." He walked away without another word. Ingrid watched him go. Then she went to find Sulla and the others. Tomorrow she would face a champion from the crystalline species called the Shari. They could regenerate from almost any wound. Killing one was nearly impossible. But Ingrid had already spotted a weakness in their recorded fights. Shari were confident because they healed fast, too confident. They did not protect their joints. She smiled and began to plan. The tournament continued, and the human kept winning. Gralk held the shield like it was made of pure arrogance. The demonstration had drawn every recruit on the station. They packed the arena stands until there was no room left. Even instructors who never attended public events stood along the walls watching. The Thoracian combat shield was supposed to change warfare forever. It was the result of 300 years of research. The energy field could stop plasma bolts, laser beams, explosive rounds, and sonic attacks. Nothing in the known galaxy could penetrate it. At least that was what the Thoracians claimed. "Step forward," Gralk bellowed. "Test your weapons against true Thoracian engineering. See what real power looks like." Recruits lined up eagerly. They wanted to prove their weapons were stronger. They wanted to impress the instructors. They wanted to damage something that looked unbreakable. One by one, they failed. A Krellian fired a plasma rifle at full power. The shield absorbed the energy without flickering. A pair of Chitauri combined their sonic disruptors into a focused beam. The shield hummed but held. A massive Gothrak swung a graviton hammer that could crush starship hulls. The shield did not even vibrate. Gralk laughed louder after each attempt. "Is this the best the galaxy can offer? My people built this shield to stop armies. You fight like children throwing stones." The crowd grew restless. Species that had feuded with Thoracians for centuries wanted to see the shield break, but nothing worked. Every weapon bounced off harmlessly. Ingrid watched from the back of the arena. She had not planned to participate, But something about Grolk's voice made her angry. He sounded like everyone who had ever laughed at her acts. He sounded like every alien who had called her species primitive. She started walking forward. The crowd parted without her asking. Whispers spread through the stands. The human, the one who kept winning, the one with the ancient weapon. Grolk saw her approaching and his laughter doubled. You want to try with that piece of museum trash? Yes, Ingrid said. More laughter. The Thorakian section of the crowd howled with amusement. Some aliens pretended to wipe tears from their eyes. Others pointed and made rude gestures. Ingrid stopped 10 meters from Grolk. She studied the shield carefully. It was beautiful technology. The energy field shimmered like liquid metal. Sensor readings would show it as nearly indestructible. But Ingrid did not care about sensor readings. How much does it weigh? She asked. Grolk blinked. No one had asked that question. 80 kilograms, why? And what anchors it? My strength, human. Thorakian muscle, the strongest in the galaxy. Just muscle, no gravity locks, no floor mounting. Grolk frowned. He did not understand why she was asking. Pure strength. A Thorakian needs no assistance to hold a shield. Ingrid nodded slowly. She had the information she needed. The shield was designed to resist energy. Plasma, lasers, sonic waves, graviton pulses. All forms of advanced warfare relied on energy in some form. The Thorakians had engineered their defense against everything the galaxy threw at them. But they had forgotten something. Something old. One throw, Ingrid said. That is all I ask. The instructors conferred briefly. Vorik nodded. Granted, one throw. Ingrid drew her axe. The blade caught the arena lights and gleamed. It looked small compared to the shield. It looked primitive. It looked like a joke. The crowd grew quiet. Even those who were laughing stopped. Something in the way Ingrid held herself made them pay attention, something in her eyes. She remembered her grandmother's voice. Aim is mathematics, power is physics, but truth is feeling. Feel the target, feel the distance, feel the moment. Ingrid felt it. She wound up with a throw perfected over 15 years. Her body rotated, her arm extended, her fingers released at exactly the right instant. The axe flew. It covered the distance in a heartbeat. It spun 3 times through the air. It hit the shield dead center. And it kept going. The blade cleaved straight through the energy field like the field was not there. It split the shield into 2 pieces that flew apart and crashed to the ground. It continued past where Grolk had been standing. He had stumbled backward in shock, saving his own life. Silence. Complete and total silence. Then Ingrid spoke. Her voice was calm and clear. Energy shields resist energy. My axe is not energy. It is kinetic force. Sharpened metal moving at 160 kilometers per hour. Your ancestors should have remembered what defeated them before they invented shields. She walked forward and retrieved her axe from where it had embedded in the arena wall. She pulled it free and inspected the blade. Not a scratch. Grolk stared at the broken halves of his shield. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. His hands trembled. The pride of Thorakian engineering lay shattered at his feet. The crowd erupted. Some cheered, some screamed. Some simply stared with their jaws hanging open. The human had done the impossible. The primitive weapon had destroyed the most advanced shield in the galaxy. Ingrid walked back through the crowd. Aliens moved out of her way quickly now. No one laughed, no one pointed, no one made rude gestures. They looked at her with something new in their eyes. Fear. Sulla met her at the arena exit. That was the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. Ingrid smiled slightly. It was just physics. Mass times velocity equals force. They built their defense against the future. They forgot about the past. Behind them, the arena still buzzed with chaos. Thorakians shouted. In outrage, scientists scrambled to understand what had happened. Betting pools collapsed as odds recalculated. And somewhere in the crowd, a legend was born. the human who broke the unbreakable shield with a single throw. Two warriors stood at opposite ends of the arena, while a galaxy held its breath. The championship match had drawn more viewers than any tournament in 50 years. Screens across 100 worlds showed the same image: a massive Thorakian on one side, a small human on the other. Grolk had not spoken since the shield incident. His silence was worse than his boasting. It carried the weight of wounded pride and burning rage. He had trained for this moment his entire life. He would not lose to a creature he considered inferior. Ingrid stretched her shoulders and felt the familiar ache of bruises. The tournament had taken a toll. Her body was covered in cuts and bruises from 6 fights, but she was still standing. That was what mattered. The rules were simple: best of 3 rounds, first to force a submission or knockout. No weapons beyond what each fighter had registered. Grolk had registered his fists. Thorakian fists could shatter stone. Ingrid had registered her axe. Everyone knew it now. Everyone feared it. The first round began. Grolk charged like an avalanche. He was faster than something that size should be. His fist came down where Ingrid had been standing a moment before. The arena floor cracked from the impact. Ingrid rolled away and slashed at his leg. The axe bit through his thick hide, but the wound was shallow. He barely noticed. He spun and backhanded her across the arena. She flew 10 meters and hit the wall hard. Stars exploded in her vision. Blood filled her mouth. "Get up," she told herself. "Larson women get up." She got up. The round continued for 3 more minutes. Grolk was relentless. He knew she could hurt him now, so he did not let her set up for throws. He stayed close. He kept attacking. He gave her no space to breathe. The round ended with Ingrid on points deficit. She had landed hits, but none that mattered. Grolk had landed fewer hits, but each one nearly killed her. "1 round to the Thorakian," the announcer declared. Ingrid limped back to her corner. Sulla waited with medical supplies. "Your ribs are cracked. Your left arm has reduced mobility. You cannot win a direct fight." "Then I will not fight directly," Ingrid said. The second round began differently. Ingrid did not try to match his power. She used the arena. She led him over obstacles. She made him chase her through pillars and barriers. She made him waste energy. Grolk grew frustrated. "Fight me, coward. Stand and face me." Ingrid did not respond. She kept moving. She kept making him work. When he finally caught her, she was ready. He grabbed her arm and pulled her close for a crushing blow. But she had positioned herself near a low barrier. She planted her feet and twisted, using his own momentum against him. He stumbled, his balance broke, and Ingrid was on his back before he could recover. She wrapped her arms around his throat and squeezed. The chokehold was ancient. Humans had used it for thousands of years. Cut off blood to the brain, and even the strongest creature would fall. Grolk thrashed and bucked. He slammed her against walls. He tried to peel her off. But Ingrid held on with everything she had. Her ancestors had wrestled bears. Her grandmother had survived a war. Her mother had pulled drowning sailors from frozen seas. Larson women did not let go. After 2 minutes, Grolk's movement slowed. After 3, he fell to his knees. After 4, he tapped the ground in submission. "1 round to the human," the announcer said. The crowd went insane. The third round would decide everything. Both fighters were damaged now. Grolk's movements were slower from oxygen deprivation. Ingrid could barely lift her left arm. Blood dripped from wounds neither had bothered to treat. They circled each other. Neither wanted to make the first mistake. Then Grolk spoke. "I will kill you, human. The rules forbid it, but I do not care. I will break your skull and scatter your bones." He meant it. Ingrid could see the murder in his eyes. The referees should have stopped the match, but they hesitated. Thorakians held power in the coalition. No one wanted to interfere. Grolk attacked with killing force. His fists were not trying to subdue anymore. They were trying to destroy. Ingrid dodged the first blow by inches. The second grazed her shoulder and nearly dislocated it. The third caught her in the stomach and lifted her off her feet. She landed hard and struggled to breathe. Grolk loomed over her with death in his eyes. One chance, she had one chance. Her right arm was useless. She had thrown right-handed her entire life. 10,000 hours of practice, all of it with her right arm. But her grandmother had taught her something. Else, train both hands, the old woman had said. You never know which one you will need. Ingrid switched the axe to her left hand. Grolk did not notice. No one noticed. They all expected her to throw right-handed. He raised his fists for the killing blow. She threw left-handed. The axe spun through the air and buried itself in his knee. Not a kill shot. Not a wounding shot. A perfect shot to the joint where his armor-like skin was thinnest. Grolk screamed and fell. His leg could not support his weight anymore. Ingrid was on him instantly. The same chokehold, the same ancient technique. This time she did not let go until he was unconscious. The arena fell silent for one heartbeat. Then the noise came. Screaming, cheering, crying. Aliens who had bet against her wept as their money vanished. Humans who had believed in her celebrated across 100 worlds. The announcer's voice cut through the chaos. Winner and new Vanguard champion, Ingrid Larson of Earth. Ingrid stood over her fallen opponent and raised her axe to the sky. Blood ran down her face. Her body was broken in a dozen places. But she had won. The first human ever. 12 warriors stood in a hall that had seen 2,000 years of heroes. The Vanguard induction ceremony was held in the oldest part of Station Varos 7. The walls were covered with names carved in metal. Each name was a legend. Each name had earned their place through blood and sacrifice. Soon, 12 more names would join them. Ingrid stood among the new inductees. Her wounds had healed over the past week, but scars remained. She wore them proudly. On her back hung the same axe she had carried since Earth. Sulla stood beside her. The Morath had earned her place through tactical brilliance in the later rounds. Her injury had healed, and she had returned to fight with new determination. Crix and Vel had not made it. Their combat algorithms could not adapt fast enough. But they had sent messages of congratulations from their homeworld. They promised to apply the lessons Ingrid had taught them. The Fen had made it. His name was Pick. He had surprised everyone in his matches with speed and cunning that no one expected from his small frame. He stood near Ingrid now, still nervous but no longer trembling. And at the end of the line stood Grolk. The Thorakian had recovered from his defeat. His knee had healed thanks to advanced medical technology. His pride had not healed so easily. The Vanguard only accepted the 12 best fighters, regardless of who had beaten whom. Grolk was still one of the 12 best. He had earned his place. The Commandant stepped forward. She was old by any species standard. Her species was unknown to most records. She had led the Vanguard for 300 years. You are here because you survived, she said. The Crucible tested your adaptability. The tournament tested your skill, but the Vanguard will test something deeper. It will test your soul. She walked along the line of inductees. Her eyes examined each one. The galaxy needs peacekeepers, not soldiers, not warriors, peacekeepers. Those who fight so others do not have to. Those who stand between the darkness and the light. She stopped in front of Ingrid. Human, you have accomplished something unprecedented. No member of your species has ever reached this hall. What do you have to say? Ingrid thought carefully before answering. I am here because of those who came before me. My grandmother, my mother, my ancestors stretching back thousands of years. I carry their strength. The Commandant nodded slowly. Tradition, legacy, interesting. She moved on to address each inductee in turn. When she had finished, she returned to the front of the hall. It is customary to present each new Vanguard member with an enhanced version of their registered weapon. Our engineers have studied your tools and created improved designs. Assistants brought forward the new weapons. A plasma rifle for the Krellian inductee, a sonic blade for the Serpentine fighter, a graviton gauntlet for the Gothrak. For Ingrid, they presented an axe. It was beautiful, The blade was forged from molecular-edge alloy that could cut through starship hulls. The handle was balanced perfectly for throwing. It was everything her grandmother's axe could be and more. Ingrid looked at it for a long moment, then she shook her head. "I must decline." Whispers spread through the hall. No one had ever declined a vanguard weapon. The commandant raised an eyebrow. "Explain." Ingrid unslung her grandmother's axe. "This weapon was forged by my great-grandmother over 100 years ago. It has been passed down through 4 generations. My grandmother taught my mother with it. My mother taught me. Every throw I have ever made has been with this blade." She held it up to the light. "Technology can be copied, it can be improved, but this axe carries something. That cannot be duplicated. It carries memory. It carries love. It carries the voices of women who faced impossible odds and refused to surrender." She looked the commandant in the eyes. "With respect, I will keep my family's weapon." Silence filled the hall. Then the commandant smiled. It was the first time anyone had seen her smile in decades. "Approved," she said. "The human keeps her ancestral blade." The ceremony continued. Names were carved into walls. Oaths were spoken. The 12 new members of the Vanguard were officially inducted into an organization older than most civilizations. Afterward, Gralk approached Ingrid. His expression was unreadable. "Human. Thoracian." They stared at each other. The last time they had been this close, one had been choking the other unconscious. "I underestimated you," Gralk said finally. "I believed technology made us superior. I believed your primitive ways made you weak. I was wrong." Ingrid nodded. "You fought well, your strength is real." "But strength alone is not enough." Gralk looked at the axe on her back. "I saw you throw with your left hand. I did not know you could do that." "Neither did I until I had to." "Will you teach me?" The question surprised her. Thoracians were proud. They did not ask other species for instruction. "Teach you what?" "How you throw, the technique, the accuracy. I have power, but you have precision. Together they would be unstoppable." Ingrid considered the request. 1 week ago, this creature had tried to kill her. Now he was asking to learn from her. "It takes time," she said. "Years of practice. You will fail thousands of times before you succeed." "I am patient." Ingrid smiled. "Then yes, I will teach you." Their first mission was announced the next morning. A peacekeeping deployment to a contested system. 3 species were fighting over resources. The Vanguard would intervene before the conflict became a war. On the transport ship, Ingrid sat near a viewport and sharpened her axe. The blade did not need sharpening. The ritual was about focus, about connection, about remembering where she came from. One by one, her new squad mates gathered around her. Sulla, Pick, Gralk, others whose names she was still learning. They watched her work the blade against the stone. "What are you doing?" Pick asked. "Preparing," Ingrid said. "For battle. For everything." Gralk sat down heavily beside her. "Tell us about Earth. Tell us how your species learned to fight." Ingrid thought about her grandmother's stories. Firelit nights in wooden halls, songs of ancient heroes, the sound of axes hitting shields. "My ancestors were called Vikings," she began. "They sailed across frozen seas in wooden ships. They conquered lands with nothing but steel and courage. They believed that dying in battle was the greatest honor." The squad leaned in closer. Aliens from across the galaxy listening to human history. Ingrid smiled and continued her story. Outside the viewport, stars stretched toward infinity. Somewhere ahead, a mission waited. Somewhere behind, Earth spun in its orbit. And in between, a human woman carried an ancient axe into the future. Sometimes the oldest weapons were the ones enemies never prepared for.